Is it fair to say that in the next 5 years, or even in the past 5 years, that the days of assigning something for 90% of the things that are happening, you're not really walking away with a lot of profit? Where I could have made the argument 10 years ago on assignments, you were actually making a really good profit.
Yes.
Okay.
Assignments are dead.
Welcome to the Tom Storey Show with Steve Karrasch and Tom Storey, where we discuss everything real estate or whatever else is on our minds.
Good?
Yes, sir.
All right, welcome back. This is now episode 4 of the Tom Storey Show, and we are very, very excited to have our good friend Jordon from Precondo joining us today. Jordon, what's going on?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. This is exciting. Just trying to survive the bear market here.
Yeah. So I actually have a funny kind of story that there's a very large brokerage that deals with a lot of pre-construction, moving pre-construction units in Toronto. And I know for a fact that they had like a meeting this week. They had lunch, and the whole thing was like how to sell pre-construction in a changing market.
Right.
So like there was like they got together to discuss it because everybody, and I had even talked to the broker of record at my company. He had said he was at a launch like last week, and everyone was kind of there like glassy eyed, being like, are we good? Like, what's going on? So what are you finding on your end as someone that comes from it, from like fully understanding it, really being the authority on the pre-con market? What are you feeling right now?
Hang on, Tom. I'm going to interject. We have to let everybody know that like we are talking to the number one pre-con guy as far as from what I can see. Right. So
maybe the number one pre-con guy on YouTube, but
okay,
there are certainly agents who move more volume than me in Toronto.
But let's face it, you are outward facing. If people are looking for education, they're coming to your channel, at least for sure in Canada.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't think anybody has a 3.5 hour course on buying pre-construction for free. So yeah, I'm that guy.
Totally. I just wanted to set the stage that you know what the hell you're talking about. So
yeah, I like to think so. Yeah, I mean, it's funny you mentioned that they had that meeting because for the last, 18 months, selling pre-construction has actually had nothing to do with sales and entirely to do with order taking. When you have a building that launches, there's 500 units and there's 2,000 people that want a unit, you're not actually doing any selling. You're not doing any education. You just call people up and you say, hey, here's what I need from you. I need an ID, I need a bank draft, and I need your top 3 unit choices. And if you don't send me that by the end of today, goodbye, see you later. Now it's funny they're having those meetings because we're going back to sales where you actually have to educate clients on what they're buying. You have to show them other options in the market. You have to explain to them why this developer is safer than another developer. You have to explain the location. You have to do all these things that used to be considered sales, but for the last 18 months, anybody who's a platinum broker anywhere can move a lot of units, right? Provided you have that inside track with the developer. So yeah, I mean, it's a different market. You're seeing launches, they're not oversubscribing. So new products are coming to market. And instead of moving 500 units in a day or 500 units in a week, they're moving 100 units in a week, which is still good absorption. And what's funny is if you go to New York City and visit some of the sales offices for pre-construction condos there that are selling at $3,000 a foot US, so $4,000 a foot Canadian, they all think what happens in Toronto is insane, that we sell out buildings in a weekend. Because they sit there at the sales office for 5 years to sell out a building. Right. Building's done and they still have 20% inventory left, right? And so it's a very anomalous market, Toronto as a whole. Part of that is undersupply. And so as a result, it's like when things turn, a lot of pre-construction agents are like, oh, wait, what do? We have to provide value again.
I had lunch not too long ago with another pretty prominent pre-con agent. And they were saying to me, she's like, I don't understand how you do what you do. You have to go out every day and meet new people and convince them to work with you. I have product. I have a list of people that want it. And like, she couldn't understand. I was like, well, you're missing another huge aspect of the business. So also, Jordon, the way that you've built out your team, it's like you've got people that are specializing in different aspects. So what does your team look like right now?
Like from a hierarchical standpoint?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have different pre-construction agents and I have 2 resale agents because My honest opinion is a lot of people looking to buy pre-construction, 60 to 70% are investors. A lot of them don't actually know until you dive into the numbers with them and their specific use case and finances. A lot of them don't know that resale is actually the better avenue for them. So if they have 20% plus closing costs and they're okay taking a tenant and absorbing a little bit of negative cash flow today, they are going to save $50,000 to $100,000, sometimes more, by buying a resale condo than a pre-construction condo. Then you have the flip side where some people just want a very specific location, a very specific product, or they don't have or they can't close on a condo today or don't want to. And those people are better suited in pre-construction. But what I find is a lot of people register for pre-construction, not understanding that it's more expensive than resale. And so I've built out a section of my team that is designated to helping those people, because a lot of people, when they realize, hey, I can save $100,000 buying an existing unit, they'll do that. And then for different areas and different types of product, I have different agents as well. So we have 9 agents in total. And I've got a guy like Riley is our loft guy. So we sell a lot of resale lofts. He knows everything about lofts. He can tell you, this loft building's Douglas fir. This is just ridiculous. He's like a walking encyclopedia on lofts. I have Matt, who's sort of our luxury pre-construction guy, who does a lot of the Forest Hill, Witchwood stuff. And so, I've got different people for different things, because I don't believe in jacks of all trades at all. I think you need to specialize in a niche.
So Jordon, with what's going on with the market right now and how it's changed, what, I mean, I was going to say a silly question, what advice are you giving, but how do you deal with that now? Or how do you start the conversation maybe with somebody that's like, hey, I want to buy a pre-sale? Because in my market, everybody's still thinking like pre-sale is, I'm going to put pen to paper, I'm going to put down 10%, and I'm going to flip the paper before it actually completes, right? And I'm going to make all this money. And right now, my market is showing that we're going to go the other direction right now. So what is it that people need to know in the changing market when they're thinking about buying new construction, particularly like condo buildings?
I think there's almost 2 questions there, and I'll touch on the first one first.
This episode of the Tom Storey Show is brought to you by the Real Estate Video Course. Today's real estate industry has changed, and you can no longer rely primarily on door knocking, cold calling, and geofarming. While these strategies still work, video provides something that these traditional methods just don't, and that is leads that reach out to you because of you and the message and content that you are providing. I believe that video is king, and that through video, you can leverage your message, create stronger relationships, and become the authority on real estate in your marketplace. The Real Estate Video Course is a 5-part course that will teach you the fundamentals of video, including why it's so impactful, the equipment that you need to invest in to get started, and the proven tips and strategies used to ensure long-term success. So go to videocourselogin.com today to become a true creator, level up your editing and production skills, and develop your real estate video plan to leverage your message to current and prospective clients. That's videocourselogin.com. The link is below in the description, and don't forget to use the discount code TOMSHOW at checkout for 10% off any purchase. That's videocourselogin.com and use the checkout code TOMSHOW. That's TOMSHOW.
The assignment flipper, that represents maybe 10 to 20% of the pre-construction market. What's interesting is we're still having a lot of inquiries like that, people who don't realize that the laws on assignment or just the tax implications have changed, which is fascinating to me, because if you're looking at dropping $100,000, $200,000 on a pre-construction condo, you should probably know what the tax implications are before you start shopping for that condo. So a lot of the time it's an education process where we have to explain to somebody who comes to us looking for that type of product, well, are you aware that first of all, you're buying at $1,500 a foot, it's only worth $1,300 a foot in the resale market. So if the market trades sideways, you're not able to assign this for profit. In fact, you're going to be in the red. And then showing, okay, well, if we do appreciate at 6% or 8% a year, here's what the value is on close. Here's how much you actually walk away with after taxes. And that number often shocks people, right? Because 150 grand very quickly becomes 50 grand. And so, the risk reward just isn't there for assignment flipping anymore, unless you can buy a product that is a really good price. And those are few and far between in the pre-construction market, especially in Toronto. the other side is like people who are buying pre-construction in general for long-term investments. My honest advice to them is, if you can afford a resale, or are willing to close, because a lot of our investors are buying for their kids. Like, they don't want a resale unit. They want something that's going to be ready in 5 years, or they're downsizers. They're not ready to move in today. And so they're buying a specific product. Like, just the other week, I was dealing with a client who wanted a 1,200 to 1,400 square foot south-facing terrace unit below $2 million that wasn't facing a major arterial road and wasn't an obstructed view, but had to be a boutique building under 6 stories. And I was like, okay, well, what you're looking for is so specific, it does not exist on the resale market, and you might only see 2 of those list a year. And it might not be in a neighborhood you want, but it happens to exist on the pre-construction market. Yes, it's a little overpriced, but it's the only place you're going to get that type of product. So there's all types of different reasons people buy pre-construction. But if they're an investor, basically my advice to them is always the same thing. Never buy something you can't afford to close on. If you do it, don't tell me you're doing it, because I won't be able to sleep at night, and you shouldn't be able to sleep at night. Look at the longer term horizon, right? If you're buying pre-construction downtown at 1,600 a foot, you should not be focused on a 5-year hold. You should be focused on 10 plus, ideally 15 plus. And in that case, it starts to make a lot of sense, because the replacement cost of housing in Toronto is currently far higher than the cost of existing stock, right? The cost of construction just went up 30% year over year. Development charges are up 49%. Inclusionary zoning comes into play in January. So the federal government is telling us they're hell-bent on helping us make housing more affordable, while the municipal government is just shanking us in the side. And so I don't see a world where Toronto gets more affordable. Certainly not over the long term.
We're gonna edit that graph in, and we're gonna get really deep into that. The one that you put up, which I thought was just like, honestly, I was shocked. I was like,
fascinating.
Let's talk about this graph right now, Tom.
You want to talk about it now? Okay.
Through the magic of editing, and I don't know if this is a Wayne's World tool of a reference, but I'm going to make sure, if you're watching this on the YouTube side, that it is on the screen now. This is insanity. When I saw this, I actually talked to my wife about it, and I was like, the city makes the most profit off of new construction. Everybody's like, big bad developers, labor's going up, all that stuff. Not even close, right? Like it's insane. So I don't know, Tom, if you want to read what's on this chart, or maybe tell me what any of this stuff even means.
Well, I think we'll leave Jordon to explain exactly, because he put this together. But basically, it's a house, and it shows what percentage of the house and where the cost is coming from, right? So to build a 750 square foot condo, which is like, I guess these days, Jordon, like a 2-bedroom in the pre-con world, right?
It might be a 2 and den.
Yeah. The materials, the land, the labor, everything to build that is going to cost you $767,000. So that's already $1,000 a square foot just to do it, just to build it, just to buy the land, the construction costs and everything.
To be fair, my understanding of this chart, I just want to jump in there, is that some of the soft costs are baked into that: marketing, agent fees.
Gotcha.
That kind of
Okay.
thing. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
Is profit in there too?
No profit in this chart at all.
Okay.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. I thought when you took that gray section that's in that chart, that was going to be including, because when they do, I think it's the construction price index or whatever, they do take a chunk of that and put it towards actual profit as well, right? So I thought that was in there. So if the developer wants to make more, then they have to pad on top of this, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
The actual profit has to be put on top of this.
Yeah, effectively. So the profit margin that developers need to show on paper, depending on the developer and what financiers, like who they're tied to, generally speaking, they need to pro forma at a 15 to 20% profit margin in order to get a construction loan. But my understanding, speaking to developers, is when you pro forma that on day one, those margins shrink by the time of final closing, almost 100% of the time. So they end up being somewhere closer to 10 to 15%. So yeah, the city's taking 22%. Well, the city and the federal government taking 22% of the price of a new condo, and the developers walking home with 10 to 15% if they're lucky.
And so then on top of what it costs to build it, and the the fees baked in for what they pay the agents and the marketing and everything. The federal government, city, parkland, and then inclusionary zoning, which we'll get into here, is basically, it's going to cost $250,000 for this one unit, correct?
Yep.
So what was it 2 years ago?
It was still a lot. I have an infographic that I did 3.5, 4 years ago. And I believe a 600 square foot unit clocked in at $162,000 in government related fees. That was pre-inclusionary zoning, obviously, and before a couple of rounds of development charge increases. So yeah, I mean, the only thing going up faster than construction costs is city fees.
And is there, and I don't expect city fees to go down. Is there any world in which we move into now where construction costs aren't as high as they were for the past 2 years? Does that happen or no? Right?
I think it's important to contextualize a couple of things. So put it this way. When you look at the Altus cost guide and it shows, for a mid-rise building, I think it shows $260 to $340 a square foot. If you talk to developers, the actual reality is higher than that. And then in addition, the labor market would have to really unravel before you saw labor costs decrease, because trades are seriously undersupplied. I mean, the estimation is that in the next 5 years, something like 24% of skilled tradesmen are retiring, the boomers, right? And less than 6% new skilled tradesmen are coming online. So not only are the most experienced guys leaving,
you get less.
Yeah. You get way less new guys. And so I don't see a world where everyone's getting their arts degrees. Nobody wants to work trades, even though I know guys coming out, getting into like electrical engineering and stuff and making like $150K their third, fourth year. So it's sad, but I just don't see a world where construction costs come down. Materials are starting to sort of stabilize and trade sideways, but it's still, the developers I talk to say it's still a nightmare out there.
Tom, I want to break this down just because there's going to be about half the people just listening the audio side of things. So this graph is a nice little house. Did you make this, Jordon? This is awesome.
Which graph are we talking about?
Oh, sorry. On the other recording, we would have had it. What are you going to do? Tom had, if he can share it here with you, there's a graph that just basically shows a house and it's got all these little colors baked in, and it just breaks up the cost. And it says of a 750 square foot condo, the cost is $1,005,300.
Yeah, that's Build. That's from Build GTA's report. I have another infographic that shows just developer profit margins in Toronto.
Okay.
On any average unit, but
cool.
It works out to roughly the same.
So this one is like land, materials, labor, other construction costs is $767,500. So let's call that 3/4. Then it says federal and provincial taxes, $100,500. Then it says city, DC, parkland, and other fees. What does city, DC, mean, and what does parkland get you?
Yeah,
so those fees.
City, DC is development charges, which are slated for education levies, development charges, slated for things like, now we got to add sewer system. We have to add some sidewalks. We have to plan for, as density gets high enough, an additional public school. We have to plan for all of these things, right? Which I'm all on board with. It's just the fact that we have over $1 billion in unspent development charges sitting in a fund. So it's not actually going to use. And then parkland levies is basically a new one, relatively new within the last 5 years, where City of Toronto said, hey, you want to build a condo building, fine, you have to give us a park. Now, the problem is you're buying a half-acre parcel of land at Peter and Adelaide. There is no room for a park, right? It's a postage size piece of land. So what they do is they say, all right, fine, you can't build a park. Yeah, you can just give us $12 million and we'll go buy a piece of land somewhere else in the city and build a park there, which has been done precisely like 6 times, I think. Like there's again hundreds of millions of dollars sitting in the parkland but not being utilized. So I'm not an expert on that stuff, on development charges and how it's being utilized, but I know a few people who are, and the stuff they tell me is, it's very underutilized. We also overcharge in that regard, because you can find Altus reports that show, for example, what Boston, Chicago, and New York charges for their version of development charges, and it's a far lower percentage of unit cost.
And then there's another cost on there that says added by IZ is almost $68,000. What the heck is IZ?
Inclusionary zoning.
Welcome to Ontario, Steve.
Inclusionary zoning sounds like a super politically correct term. Like what the hell does that mean? Does that just mean just give us more money?
So it's a great name, and they've done this, but they've geniuses at the city. Okay,
marketing, right?
So so they call it inclusionary zoning because it sounds like, well, this is the opposite of exclusionary zoning, and exclusionary zoning is a problem, right? And so inclusionary zoning, this is a good thing. What it actually should be called is forcing developers to build affordable housing in condo buildings, which will drive up the cost of every other unit in the building. So we're going to subsidize 5 to 10% of every condo building has to now be affordable housing. And who's going to pay for that affordable housing? Because now you have 5 to 10% less of the building that you can actually legally sell. Everybody else who buys is now going to effectively subsidize those units.
Are those affordable housing? Is that just subsidized like rentals, or is that like it has to? Oh, okay. So it's not like a unit that has to be sold at a certain cap or something like that.
No. So it'll be rented at, there's different levels of affordability. So one is like 80% CMHC. So they take the average rent of Toronto for a 1-bed, which is currently like, because it rolls in everything across Ontario, it's like $1,200, I think, and then it's 80% of that. So 1-bed will rent for about $1,000 a month under this program. I believe your income has to be below, I don't know, there's different rules. It's like your income has to be, family income has to be below $60,000 or $70,000, something like that, to qualify. And there's, the upside to this is there is a massive wait list of people that need affordable housing. The problem is you cannot tax housing in order to create affordability. It just doesn't make any sense.
The thing that, and I know, get ready for us to get in crap for my comments here, Tom. So we had this in Olympic Village, basically in Vancouver, right? They said, okay, you're going to do so much of this is going to be condos that you're going to get to sell at a certain dollar volume, and then so much of it's going to be affordable housing. And I thought that was like, okay, cool. Like Olympics, there's all this money coming in. There's a portion affordable housing. There's a portion condos. And then the politically correct police got offended that the two different buildings, the people that get the free housing and then the people that buy the unit themselves, had separate entrances. Right.
He had that
so
in Toronto
they,
too,
they
right?
dubbed it, what they call
rich
it,
door, poor door.
poor door. They call it the poor door. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, like
probably a bad name choice.
Yeah, for sure. Like that's all marketing again. But it's like, yeah, I just did pay $3 million for my condo with an waterfront view in Vancouver, and then there's affordable housing, and I just view it as like it doesn't seem well thought out for just day-to-day life. It's nice to think that these inclusionary zoning is all just going to work and everybody's just going to be happy together. But is it just marketing like you mentioned, or do you think like there's any actual thought put into this? Is this just a tax grab?
It's a tax grab. There is no thought put into it. The idea of politicians putting thought into anything other than keeping their job is incredible to me after the last 2 years.
You're my new best friend, Jordon.
No, but it's ridiculous. Like the idea of, it's funny because you look around the world and some cities have solved this stuff. And instead of following those examples, we follow the example of Portland, which did inclusionary zoning, and new housing proposals fell off a cliff because developers said, no, thanks, can't be done. Profit
Who did it
margins
successfully?
gone. Sorry?
Who did it successfully? Like what cities have done it better? Is there
Well,
anybody
I just mean like you look at some European cities and like with the ability to build missing middle, they're able to build far more housing supply and gentrify areas that are previously single family residential. And so your average rent relative to income has come down a lot. So there's less people who can't afford to rent effectively, right? And in Toronto, it's like you either have super high density or single family. And it seems like there's very few corridors where you can do anything in between. Even Montreal is great at this. Like you drive around Montreal, it's one of my favorite cities. Like, I mean, there's mid-rise everywhere. There's an abundance of rental supply in Montreal, right? And I just think it's funny that like city of Toronto sits around and they're like, how do we solve this? Like, how do we build more affordable housing? How do we make housing more affordable for everyone? And their idea is to further tax the middle class that's buying pre-construction condos, trying to move up, because let's be real, property investing is one of the main means of upwards mobility in Canadian society. And so let's tax those people to create more housing for the poor. Let's never talk about increasing property taxes in Toronto, though. That's untenable. Let's just double land transfer. Let's do this. Let's add a parkland levy. It's just insanity.
Do you want to know? Sorry, Tom. I'll let you talk, Tom.
I got a question here. So the last time that I saw for the first time in a long time was like coming into 2017. We saw all these potentially purpose-built rental buildings, which Steve just did a really good video on this, saying that REITs should own the rental buildings because they treat them better. If they ever went in a bad direction, the city would fine them. But if the city's own buildings, they don't fine themselves. We can get into that. But when rent control came in, it's no longer in place now, unless your building was built before November 2018, I believe. A lot of these developers occupied just scrapped it. They said, I'm not building a purpose-built rental anymore. I'm switching it back to a condo because those numbers no longer made sense. Is there any developer that you know, because I know you know a lot of people on the inside, that's here in inclusionary zoning, be like, you know what? I can't build what we want anymore. We're going to wait. Or this just doesn't make sense.
Yes, there has been developers I've spoken to have said there has been a mad rush to get buildings approved before the deadline. The other thing that'll happen is after the deadline, and this is one of the benefits in my view, because I like this style of building, is you don't have to do inclusionary zoning below 100 units. So ironically, instead of getting a lot of commodity product, what you're actually probably going to see is a lot of 99 unit, 98 unit, ultra luxury boutique buildings, I would imagine, in order to skate around that.
I just wanted to touch on the taxation thing from a BC point of view. It was pretty funny when you're talking about that, taxing the middle class stuff, because everything here is like, we're going to tax the high end. Our transfer taxes over $3 million are like 5%, right? We're going to tax all this stuff. And then they brought in speculation tax. So speculation tax is most of BC or the populated areas in BC. If you have a second residence and it's not rented, you're going to get taxed the crap out of you, except Whistler. We're going to let Whistler not have that, right? Where all the rich people own their second homes, right? So it's like, oh my goodness, you guys are, I don't know who they think they're fooling, but they definitely think they're fooling.
Yeah. No, they need to appear like they're doing something.
Yeah.
That is, correct. I think I would be a very good politician. I perfected the art of appearing like I'm working in high school. Like I would be a fantastic politician.
We've also perfected the art of creating a really profitable and really good business where you can sit at your computer all day and I'm running around out there like an idiot, meeting with clients, and you're just making graphs. And I love it. I love it. I know that's pre-COVID, I did all of my stuff in person. I really that's the one thing I missed the most, was meeting people at sales offices and actually walking them through the project. There's so much that's lost doing it digitally. But yeah, if I'm a consumer and I don't have the down payment I want yet for resale, or it just doesn't make sense, and I'm thinking like, what's my pre-construction starter pack? Like, what am I looking for? If I had to look at 4 or 5 things that you say, like, these are the check marks you have to check.
Yeah.
What's someone looking for?
First, in this environment, a tier 1 developer.
Okay. So what does that mean? So break that down. What's tier 1?
Tridel, Daniels, Pinnacle, Concord.
Track record.
Pemberton. Yeah, the big boys.
Yep.
The guys who have roots have been doing this a long, long time. And I mean, some of the names I just listed, self-build, they don't contract out. So they control more of the margin. They have more control over what happens. it is true we're going to see a wave of condo cancellations for sure. If your project, if you bought a condo project at, right before COVID, let's say, and they haven't broken ground yet, you're in trouble. It's in trouble.
How many of those do you think are actively out there right now?
There's not that many.
Okay.
Right. There's not that many. There's a few. I mean, there's some that sold 2017 waterfront Toronto that haven't, well, they broke ground, but then they stopped digging. So, I mean, that's a bad sign.
But how can they just cancel? Like, how does that process work? They just phone everybody up one day and be like, we're taking your money. Here's your money back. Like, what do they do?
Yeah. So it says in your contract, if we don't get satisfactory financing by a specific date, we can cancel the project and refund your deposits, sometimes with penalty and interest. And that is the line, right? Is we didn't get the financing we wanted, or we couldn't get financing at all. Which is more commonly the case when construction costs rise rapidly and that margin shrinks and the bank just goes, well, we can't fund it anymore. You sold 100%. There's no margin you can find now. It's not like you held back 30% of your units to hedge against this. So there's nothing we can do. We can't give you the money. And none of these well, there's a few, but most don't have just $300 million sitting on the books to not finance construction. Right. And so they have no choice but to cancel, then resell the land or relaunch it if they are feeling ballsy.
Tom clipped something here that was an article. I don't know where you got that from, Tom, but they're estimating maybe 5,000. Is it units?
Units.
Yeah. I mean, look, people forget, like 2019, 4,200 condos canceled across Canada, 4,200 units. It was like 5,000 and actually that much.
Considering everything that's going into it, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is actually like one of the things I talk about with a lot of colleagues a lot that makes me bullish on Toronto is not just the long-term population outlook, the fact that, the federal government's supply plan comes with absolutely zero actual plan. Like, it's just like a graph of here's how many homes we have to build. It's like, that's great, but like, how are you going to do that? And they're like, the developers, like they don't actually have a plan for how they're going to incentivize developers to do it, how they're going to take control back from municipalities, which are causing the red tape issues. So of course it's not going to happen. Nothing's going to change. And yet population is surging. So that makes me bullish on the long term of the Toronto market. But really makes me bullish is like, we're watching in real time as what's currently happening with the interest rates rising is causing a contraction in supply. We're watching condo projects cancel and condo projects that would otherwise in a healthy market launch now, say, you know what, we're going to postpone until next year, see if the market's better. And so as a result, we're seeing less new units start and less new units complete because of cancellation. So if over the next 5 years, we might have seen 100,000 condos complete, now we might only see 80,000 or 75,000. So it's once again, like the supply and demand equation is getting worse. So that's the way I look at it.
The percentage of all the new construction that you've sold over your career that has closed, if you could say percentage of that was immediately rented out and becoming rental inventory, what would that be?
Probably 60 to 65%.
Okay. Yep. And right now, how many calls are you getting a week with people that didn't buy with you saying, hey, Jordon, listen, rates are going up. I don't think I can close on this thing. I got to assign it. Can you put it on MLS? And the answer is, well, I can try, but no, I can't put it on MLS. How many calls those are you getting?
No. You got it all twisted. The answer is, if you didn't buy with me, I'm not assigning it.
Okay. Okay.
Reason being is assignment is far more work than the acquisition. And my question is always, where's the broker you bought it with? Like, right, why are you coming to me? You saw me on YouTube and you're like, this is the guy. Well, unfortunately, you didn't buy it with me. That's not the way it works. The only reason I do assignments at all is because you bought it with me. I'm not interested in the headache surrounding assignments for somebody who's never bought with me.
Is it fair to say that in the next 5 years, or even in the past 5 years, that the days of assigning something for 90% of the things that are happening, you're not really walking away with a lot of profit? Where I could have made the argument 10 years ago on assignments, you were actually making a really good profit.
Yes.
Okay.
Assignments are dead. Like
Okay.
that is not a viable strategy. The risk reward does not make it worth it. Yeah, no, don't. If you're like, just don't buy pre-construction with the sole intention of assigning. Stick your money in stocks. Like honestly, when you know, the beautiful thing about real estate is the leverage aspect. It's the 5, you know, it's the 4 to 1, 20% down, and you're leveraged in the property market, which over a 45-year horizon goes up 6-8%, 6 to 7%, including downturns, right?
Yep.
That is the beauty of real estate. But when you shorten your time horizon to 5 years, you invite a whole lot of risk. And when you increase your acquisition cost to 20% over intrinsic resale value, you once again increase your risk. And then you reduce your reward, because Canada loves taxing everything they can get their paws on. And so very quickly, your risk reward is no longer skewed. Like, just close on it, rent it out for a year, get your $24,000 in HST back, sell it on the resale market. If you're so interested in cashing out, which honestly, unless you're leaving the country, like, or unless you have a use for that capital, what are you doing?
Right.
Because you're incurring transactional costs. Now you have all this money that you just have to pivot into another investment. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, right? And so, yeah, I mean, assignment flipping just isn't. I still get texts to this day. The other day, just yesterday, literally, I got a text, and it was someone saying, "Hey, Jordon, I saw this project on your site." He goes, "Can you confirm that that it has free assignment, and that the developer's okay with not getting a mortgage pre-approval?" And then a follow-up text from before I replied was, "Oh, also, what are the prices?" So like, prices were irrelevant, right? Like, it didn't matter what the value was there. All that mattered was, is the developer going to check my mortgage ability, and is it free assignment? Can I flip this thing? Which is, you know, it's not the bulk of the pre-construction purchases, but it's certainly out there.
Why do people have that opinion? Why is it that so many people, first of all, think pre-con is cheaper? They think they can just make a quick buck with it. Like, we joke, but like, is it because the TikTok realtors are telling them? Is that why? Is it just that the marketing companies like Baker and all the other ones are doing such a phenomenal job that they're like, the public is like, oh my God, I need this? Like, why is it that people have that mindset?
Honestly, man, I look to the people who have been doing this longer than me and have more success than me, just because of the nature of being in pre-construction longer. Yep. Sort of the OGs of pre-construction. They all say the same thing about assignments: not to buy, to assign. Yep. And they've, for the most part, held that line for the last 5 years. And so it's not even coming from the top down, the guys who move 300, 400, 500 units a year. And so I actually don't think that's it. I think a big part of it is it only got really popular in the last 5 years. And so I think a big part of it is people who bought pre-2016 condo run. If you bought pre-construction in 2015 and you assigned it, or 2014, 2015, and you signed it in 2018, 2019, 2020, you did insanely well. We're talking almost doubled the value of you. There was a year there, 2016, 2017, where condo prices went up over 30%. And so you were buying at a 5 or 10% premium to resale back in 2015. And then the prices went up 50, 60% over the next 5 years. And so I think a lot of people have anecdotal stories from friends and family where their uncle bought a pre-construction for $300K, assigned it for $650 4 years later.
Right.
And so that just spreads like wildfire. People are like, wow, I don't even have to close. I don't need a mortgage. I'm going to make $300,000. The situation is different these days.
And they make $300,000. And like you alluded to earlier, after you actually pay your tax, if you pay your tax, not that anybody avoids their tax on pre-sales.
Yeah.
They never do that. But if you do, it's like $100,000 profit, right? So even though your uncle told you, hey, I just made $300,000, they didn't really make $300,000. He only made, let's call it $200,000 or $250,000 if he didn't pay his taxes. Because there's things like, for us, there's GST twice, and you can apply to get that back or whatever, but that's not, I don't think a lot of people were doing that. And I'm not sure what the CRA is doing to follow up on that. I think they should follow the money like crazy. But I think a lot of that comes from personally, not those people not using necessarily someone like you, because you're going to represent the buyer and you're not representing the developer. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So most people, in my experience anyway, stand in the line without an agent and want to just toss money down, and the person they're dealing with is the representative of the developer, right? So I don't think there's a lot of value by the general public that's trying to make a quick buck anyway. Not the seasoned investor is going to come to somebody like you, and you'll probably have a stable of investors that you take projects to and things like that. But the let's call it the retail person that's going to stand in that line for 8 hours or 2 days or whatever it was, they're not represented, and they're only hearing the benefits of the building from the developer. Of course, the developer is going to try and sell their building, right? But they're not necessarily going to have somebody on their side guiding them through it like your business model is, or probably most platinum agents are, right?
Yeah, to be fair, the Toronto pre-construction condo market is very it's one of a kind. 80 to 90% of pre-construction condos that get purchased here are co-brokered. There's a buying agent. It's very rare for somebody to buy direct from the developer. You see it a lot with people who stick with developers. So, there's a lot of people. I have a lot of clients who are like, I buy Tridel. That's it. Every year, I buy a new Tridel. Every year. That's it. That's all I do. I don't touch anything. I don't even entertain anything else. And so, and that exists with other developers too. Those people will sometimes just get very close to the developer and just work with the developer directly. But outside of that, people don't. I mean, I've even seen people walk into sales centers and say, hey, I'm not using a broker, so I want whatever you would pay them in commission. I want that as a price reduction. And developers, well, 99% of them in Toronto will say, no, sorry, pay the same price.
Yeah.
Jordan, have you seen it at all where I think for the general consumer also maybe doesn't know that for the most part, not totally across the board, but you sell a pre-construction condo, you make 4% commission. You do resale, you make 2.5%. So you make more on the pre-con side. Now we're starting to see in the resale world, people that really need to sell, I'm seeing that commission bumping up to 3%. I'm like, well, just change the price. Don't up the commission. That would get it sold faster. Have any pre-con projects started offering more incentives to the agent than they previously did at times where things are getting slower?
Yeah, I mean, you always see it in a slower market where incentive bumps. But I think what happens a lot of the time is, at least what I see, is, if the developer offers 5%, immediately you just see a lot of the platinums offering 1% or 1.5% back to the client, because it's easier than trying to sell it at full price. Right? So it's kind of a win-win in that way, and developers get away with not having to actually reduce their prices, which is the last thing they want to do. So that works there. And I think a lot of the public also doesn't realize that, like, we're married, man. You buy a pre-construction condo for me, you don't close on that. I don't get paid until final closing. So usually it'll be like 4% or 3%. A lot of developers are also 3%, depending on the developer. So it'll be, I get half of my commission in maybe once you hit 15% down. So that'll come in 18 months. And then I'll get the other half of my commission in 2027, once half of it is eroded away due to inflation. And there's also clawbacks, which means that if that client fails to close in 2027, or if the developer cancels, that 50% of my commission that they just paid me, I now owe it back to them.
Have you ever had to do that?
Sorry?
Have you had to do that?
I've never seen, I've been very lucky. Yeah. I've sold, I think, 3 or 4 units that canceled. They were at small developments. And we told the clients, like, look, these prices are too good to be true. Just be aware. And sure enough, it canceled a year after. It happens, man. I'm just glad I wasn't involved in any of the big headline ones, because I know people who moved 50 units and had them all cancel.
So for a pre-con agent, just to dig into the agent side of things, a lot of the business model is, let's be honest, they create websites that look like the developer sites. People sign up for their newsletters. They think the developer's emailing them. Then they buy a unit. They don't really know who they bought it from. It's this weird experience. But listen, the agents that do it right have done very well. But the way that you just broke down how they actually get paid, it's like, well, they better be good at cash flow. Because if you're spending $5,000 a month on Facebook ads to sell this project, even if you sell 5-10 units, you're not getting paid for maybe 6 months at the earliest, and then 3-4 years down the road. So Have you found in your small circle of agents that are very active in the pre-con market that some of those people are leaving the circle, or you like see a lot of new faces and then don't see them again? Because it's expensive.
You see a lot of new faces rotate in and out very quickly, because there's also the political aspect where you have two options as a new agent in pre-construction. You can either piggyback on somebody who's been doing it for 10 years and take units from them. Now you have a problem because you have to give them 1% of commission on every pre-construction deal. And also you will never now build your own name. So you will never be a platinum yourself with those developers. You will always have to go through, your condo papa. Now with if you build your own name, now you have a totally different problem. Nobody knows you. Right. No developers have any track record with you. They don't know if you can move units. And so they're not going to let you in at first round allocations, or maybe they'll say they will, but when you submit your 5 worksheets, you just won't hear back. You'll never get a unit. And so you have to choose one of two paths. Right. And so, yeah, I mean, and the other side is like, nobody's spending $5,000 and selling 10 units with $5,000 in ads, like not even close. Right.
Okay. Right. So it's more
much higher expense than that to move 10 units. Yeah. Even when times are really good. And yeah, there's a ton of new faces. I mean, to the guys who've been doing this decades, like I'm a new face, right? I've only, I've been selling pre-construction 9 years, but I haven't really been doing like new launches. I've maybe only been doing those for 4 or 5 years. I've been selling a lot of just the boutique stuff up until now. So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people go, wow, 4%. And I can sell over the phone. Like, oh, this is what I will do. And it's like, I can tell you that my 3rd year in pre-construction, I did over $1 million in commission. Mm-hmm. And within that year, I was paid less than $160,000, and my expenses were over $250,000. Right. I ran a negative guy who's dipping into my investments. So it's like, it's a tough business to make it in. But I think with everything in real estate, like if you're going to get in it, throw up landing pages that pretend to be the builder, just don't do it, because that model is going to die. Consumers are getting smarter and smarter. Some developers are cracking down on that type of activity, right? You have certain developers that will basically not allow you to run ads for their trademark developer name. And yeah, clients are slowly and surely getting a lot smarter about the space.
On our last episode, we had Emma Pace on, and she works for Zoocasa, and Steve knew Zoocasa when they were owned by Rogers before they were bought out, and we were kind of asking her about that model. And then a day later, I see that EXP Realty buys Zoocasa. A day later. So a day after this, who's buying pre-condo and how much are they paying?
Hang on. The Tom Storey show killed Zoocasa. Is that the
I hope not. I like the people there. No, I hope not.
Sorry.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I know Buzz Homes sold
for a lot of money, I'm assuming, right?
A lot, yeah. Yeah, they did very well.
Yeah.
They're but totally different model, right? Because they're a tech company. They were never selling condos. They were selling leads to people who sold condos, and they were selling marketing packages to developers. Very different model. I'm not looking at an exit. I can tell you that much. The reason we built out precondo.ca for like SEO wise.
Yep.
Is, well, first of all, my background is literally in SEO. And number 2 is, I am one of those people that religiously scrolls past any AdWords, right? I do not, when I Google something, I am not clicking on an ad ever.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And I think there's a whole generation of us that are like that. And I think with pay-per-click, you get a different type of lead for sure, especially when you pretend to be the builder. It's kind of like Commissions Inc. When you buy these websites like GTA Home Search 2732.com, and it's like, they put up an ad for you. So it's like you search Richmond homes for sale. You go to the site, and then like as soon as you click on a listing, it's like, give us your information. You're going to get a very different quality lead versus somebody who comes to your website, can see everything openly and freely and fills out a contact form that says, hey, get in touch with me, right? One is a volume play and the other is a quality play.
So do you pitch yourself then? It's I don't know anything about your business. I don't know anything about the pre-sale side because I mean, I'm the typical resale residential agent, right? So your goal then is you have a website or whatever internet traffic to get them to come to you for a specific project or for all of the projects because you're the expert in that area.
So we have 1,700 different buildings on our website. So yeah, they'll register for any one of 1,700 for more information. Now, once they register once, they can see all the pricing and floor plans for pretty much any project that's actively selling on our website real time. So they don't ever have to register again when they're on another page. And so they can just browse around. But yeah, they're typically registering for more information on a specific development, or they're just coming to our contact page to just get help. Because I mean, it's a lot, it's overwhelming, especially the first time you buy pre-construction. You're like, there's so many projects that have, there's so much projects that have inventory, and also the inventory is never up to date. You can go to Buzz Condo now and my website, and you're like, I'm getting 3 different availabilities. Like, I don't know what's accurate, what's not. So a lot of time it's easier just to contact somebody.
So if somebody reaches out to you, then next step is somebody on your team reaches out to them and kind of sets up a consultation, because that's what we do. Or is it like,
yeah, no,
hey,
it's exactly
meet you at the
same.
sales center on some so-and-so day and, you know, get your worksheets ready? And my next question is going to be, what the hell's a worksheet? But let's let's work on the first part.
No, yeah, usually we try to do consults first, because the problem is when you book someone directly at a sales office, I have an existing relationship with that builder. So if I realize halfway through my presentation of this project that they're actually better suited for a different development, it's incredibly disrespectful for me to be like, okay, well, hold on, actually, let's walk across the street to a different sales office. I'll see you guys later. And so I like to have the consultations either in office or Zoom prior to meeting them at a sales office, so that I can get an understanding that we're actually going to the right sales office. Because obviously there are a lot of different projects selling at any given time.
And now explain to me what the hell a worksheet is, because I hear you say that word. I've never heard it from anybody else, and I'm not in pre-con. So maybe that's a little bit more about the process. Yeah,
it's the chosen process that has evolved over the years and has just become sort of the favorite. Not so long ago, they used to allocate floors, right? So they used to just give their platinum brokers, hey, here's your floor, here's your floor. You guys trade amongst each other, whatever, just sell all the units, right? That's less popular now. Now, a lot of the time you do worksheet lotteries. And so a worksheet lottery is a way of determining how to allocate units. And that's also part of the reason they use platinum, because if they just let every agent in, I mean, you only have 4 or 5 sales reps working for the builder. Like, it's just too much to keep track of. All these thousands of people want units. And so the worksheet lottery is essentially, as a buyer, you come to one of the platinum agents, you fill out your information, your occupation, your employer, you give a picture of your ID to confirm you're a real person. Sometimes you take a picture of a bank draft or a personal check that you've written so they know you're serious. And on that worksheet, you put your top 2 or 3 unit choices. So you say, hey, I want this unit on these floors. If I don't get that, I'll accept this unit on these floors. You send that into the developer, or rather your broker does. And then your broker is going to hear back, here's what we're giving you, you're allocating to your client. And then you get the price and the exact unit they got. Now they can sign for it and enter the 10-day cooling period.
Okay, so does the developer then send you back the offer, basically? Like,
yeah,
here, your worksheet's accepted, here's your offer, sign it back to us?
Yeah. And a lot of the time it'll be like, okay, here's 20 worksheets, or here's 10 worksheets here. We're giving you these 8 units. Depending on the developer, a lot of the times it'll be like, we don't actually care who you give those 8 units to. We allocated based on the worksheets you gave us, right? So you can give them to the people that we're suggesting that they're for, or you can give them to whoever you want. We don't really care. Just sell the units, right? Yeah, that's essentially how it works. And then once you confirm it with the builder, they send out the agreement of purchase and sale via DocuSign, or you meet up at the sales office, and away you go.
I was going to say, next thing is that now all online? Like you're just on the phone with your client saying, hey, you got this one, you got that one? Or is that like a go down to the sales center and we're going to do the whole presentation thing?
It's like 60-40, 60% all online now.
Yeah.
Is that because of the pandemic?
Yeah, because of the pandemic. Now that things are normal again, in my world at least. Anybody else, they can keep pretending it's real, but that's not what I mean. You know what I mean? So they, a lot of our clients want to come to the presentation centers again, because I mean, it's just better to understand the project in its entirety, to understand what you're buying, right? And so a lot of them now come back to the sales office, which is nice. I prefer it that way.
And it's more of I find pre-sale to be more of the dream, right? It's closer to buying a car than it is buying a resale property, right? So it's like, we're going to go down there, we're going to get wined and dined a little bit. Maybe they're going to tell us all the cool things. So you are buying a little bit of the experience in that market where you almost have something to look forward to, right? It's like planning a vacation. Yeah, I know if I'm taking my kids to Disneyland in a year and a half, I'm going to have just as much fun planning that vacation or looking forward to it. So I want to be kind of sold that dream a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what the presentation center does so well, where I think the presentation center here, anyway, from my experience with them, and I'm by no means selling a lot of pre-sale units, is the clients just don't understand who is there for them and who isn't there for them.
Right.
That's a sticking point, specifically in BC now, where you can't have dual agency, period. Right? Like it has to be, you are unrepresented. Most of the builders were doing that anyway, but now it's a little bit more clear that that's happening.
Right.
Jordon, I've got two projects I want to ask you about. Forma Condo seems to be the most exciting, maybe not as a pure investment, but just like exciting project that has launched in a long time, regardless of what's going on in the market. It looked like a lot of people showed up to that presentation. Where do you rank that as of what you know right now, based on buildings in Toronto? Is that the one? Is that the one you got to own at if you want to show like I'm successful?
To be clear, a lot of agents will show up to any presentation if you offer free snacks.
Yeah, it's like our office meetings. I see new faces every week.
And if you tell them they're VIPs, they're going to show up.
Yeah.
No, but in all seriousness, yeah, I mean, this one's been planning for a decade. It's Gary.
Yeah.
Slap a Gary name on anything, it's going to sell. As far as like, is it the one? I mean, I don't believe in that, man. There's no pinnacle project. There's no one that's ideal for everybody. Like, the people want different things. Like, I wouldn't live there because I love my balcony, man. Like so for me, I mean, it's tough to say. Like, I'm
3,000 kilometers away. Explain to me, what was it? Forma Condo? Explain a little bit more.
Yeah. So it's designed by Frank Gehry. He's got to be the most famous architect, right?
Probably one of the biggest ones.
I mean, you have Bjark, you have Gary. I mean, Studio Gang. Like, as far as Toronto goes, it's the most famous, right? And it's a very unique building. The cladding exterior of the building is literally stainless steel. So the outside of this building is stainless steel. It's going to reflect. It's going to blind people on the Gardner and cause accidents. It's a beautiful building. And it's going to stand out, like, from the water. It's really going to stand out. So it's a really unique building. The finishes are quite nice. The amenities are top level, and it's built by three of the best developers, or at least the most reputable developers in the city. So it has the makings of a perfect project, right?
Do you? So I saw the price sheet on that. So give or take about $2,000 a square foot for that project. On your database of clients, has anyone said to you, like, I need that building? Like, that's the one? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So people are excited about this, not just in the pre-con agent world, but in the consumer world.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% people are excited about it.
So is that like, it's going to sound bad, is that a flex buy? Is that like
it's a trophy? It's a piece of trophy real estate.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I mean, if
it's a status symbol more than a real estate investment.
Yeah, to a degree.
Yeah, cool. Hey, man,
I mean,
there's there.
I mean, it's
there,
also,
right?
yeah, it's also, you know, at 2,000 a foot, it isn't closing till they're marketing 2028, but realistically it's 2030. So it's the ultimate like buy it and forget it type of project. Like, you know, it's your life is going to be completely different by the time this thing even occupies. And it's also like, you know, you look around at the trophy projects that are currently available in Toronto, and it is certainly not the most expensive, not even close.
Right. Interesting. The other one I want to ask you about, and maybe this acronym means something, I haven't done as much research on it, the NTRY, where they had Ryan Serhant comment. And that one, it used to be Snacks would get agents to show up. I think agent showed up to that one to get a picture with Serhant. I believe that's kind of taking pre-con to a virtual world. Do you have opinions on that? I know one of the main guys involved, and I'm buddies with him, but I really haven't dug into it yet.
I went out to the underlying software, 3D Cityscapes.
Yep.
I went out to meet with Raza. It was pre-COVID. Everything was pre or post-COVID. It's like BC. Yeah, no. So pre-COVID, I met with Raza when he was showing me the software because he saw my YouTube videos, and they had sat there, and this was like when it was a very small team, like a very small office. And I saw the software and I was like, yeah, of course it's going to work. Like it's beautiful. You know, it's like Blackline on steroids. Like it's an amazing platform to show pre-construction. The reason that I go out of my way to license a 3D model of the city of Toronto that shows every upcoming building is for transparency.
Right.
Because a lot of clients, I mean, I have horror stories, right, of people who bought pre-construction thinking their view was clear, not with me, because I wouldn't sell a clear view that was going to get obstructed. But, you know, their agent said, oh, that parking lot, it's only a 16-story building. It comes up, it's like eau de soleil, you know? And so it's, there needs to be more transparency in pre-construction, because a rendering is an artist impression, which means when you throw a rendering in a brochure, you don't have to show the buildings that are actually blocking your view or any of that, right? So it's very easy to fall for marketing. And I think entry is the most accurate representation of the city. Like the Unreal Engine, it's super realistic. They actually, if you want to see it in action, you can go to Tridel's DuPont Sales Center, because they're using entry software or 3D Cityscapes software, whatever, to run that sales office, and you can see how realistic it is.
Is this
really incredible.
the website or whatever it is that I see on your videos where you're like scrolling around the city and all the buildings are in like different colors? Is that what you're talking about?
That's like our like, you know, Lego version compared to
oh, really? Because that's
incredible.
actually like I wish I had something like that for here,
Yeah.
because that is the coolest thing where you're like, okay, these are in developments and they're kind of in different colors and like showing how tall they're going to be and all that different stuff. That's a pretty cool site.
Entry is basically like, imagine building Toronto accurately in Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, really?
That's literally what it is. Like it's photorealistic. It's hyper realistic. Yeah,
And
it's the best way to showcase new projects.
Yeah,
sure.
the idea is the consumer can walk in and using this platform really understand what they're buying and not just look at a floor plan.
Yeah, and it's inviting some disruption into the space, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what like you look at that and you go, so what purpose do I serve?
Interesting.
Right. And so I think actually a lot of platinums are probably a little bit concerned about it, because it does empower the consumer, which I'm all for at the end of the day.
Yep.
I think it's in the best interest of everyone for consumers to be able to get a full, accurate representation of a project on their own without anything.
That to me sounds like actual value, though, in a disruption, as opposed to most of the disruptors that are, you know, just kind of leeching off the real estate agents, right? Like that, if you're actually showing and educating someone better, as opposed to like, just use us and we'll kick you back 10% or whatever, right? Like that's an actual disruptor. So I'm interested to check it out and see what's going on there.
What you said at the beginning to Jordon was that for the last 2 years of pre-con, people were order takers. And me and Steve talk about this a lot in the coaching group we're a part of, where like skilled salespeople are going to take over more market share now than they ever have before, because the order takers are not going to survive. They're not going to know how to actually do their job. And whether in our world, it was like, the sale prices are public. Oh no, people aren't going to use realtors. Nothing changed. Nothing changed.
Yeah.
And maybe in your world, there's other things, but it's like at the end of the day, they're consuming your content online. And one of the things I always look at when I talk to other realtors or brokers when I do presentations is like, there's two ways you can get leads to come to you, right? New people that reach out to you. One person reaches out because they want a thing, and you will get them that thing. So some people say, Jordon, I want this project. I know you can get me this project, but maybe they don't know you yet and the loyalty's not there, but you can get them in that door. And in our world, it's Tom, you have a listing. I want it. I want you to get me in that door. The other side is, hey, Jordon, I want you. I don't know where to start. What the hell should I buy? The property is secondary. And I think that's really cool what you've done with your business, where I'm sure a lot of people are reaching out saying, hey man, I watch your stuff. You've educated me. Like, where do I start here? And it's not a sales pitch. It's an education session, right?
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I think the next few decades you're going to see some interesting shifts in how real estate is transacted as, tech makes it easier and easier, adds transparency to the consumer. I think it's more important than ever now that realtors really learn their craft and also become educators in the space, because the good old days are coming to an end.
You seem to have also, just to dig into the YouTube side of things here, you're currently above me and Steve on subscribers. We have a picture of you on our wall, and we just put little pins in your eyes. And so you built that up pretty quick, man. Honestly, like your following, your videos do very well. Like, I found out about you because your stuff will pop up on my page, and then we collabed on one. What made you get into YouTube? Because there's many different platforms. Why'd you start there?
I'll be honest. What happened was, when Precondo was literally just me and an assistant a number of years ago, we would send out an email about a project, and then I would get on the phones, and I realized very quickly the first 12 minutes of every phone call is the exact same. It's me catching them up to speed on the specifics of the development, with the main barrier being no visual aid. I'm doing everything over the phone, trying to get their bearings, trying to get them to understand where the location is, what the views are like, all these things. And I was like, I could just film this part of the phone call. And then that way the actual phone call is about the substance. Like, why are you buying? Is it for your kids? Is it for like talking about the stuff that actually matters, rather than just like, here's the project. And so I just put up a couple of project like walkthroughs, which I had to delete because I go back through and I watch my original videos and I'm like, geez, like, people listen to this. And then I just kept putting them up because I kept getting good feedback, and I found, turns out there's an interest in that.
Huge interest. And like, I'm sure on a business level as well, if you could look at, let's say you guys do 100 units a year. I'm just making up a number. Percentage wise of people that reach out and say, hey, I found you on YouTube. Is it becoming a big part of where you're finding new clients on top of the repeat and referral that you already have?
No,
okay,
not really, but it is. I was recognized in Sobeys the other day as the condo guy on YouTube. So that's fun. I guess I've made it, right? No, but also, what happens a lot, and my agents will tell me this, is like, when they call a lead that is in our database or is registered for a project or whatever, they say, oh yeah, I watched Jordon on YouTube.
Right.
I know exactly who you guys are. So that brand equity is already built, right?
We got to change that for you, man. Cause I know both Tom and I are like, we're seeing
it's big,
large increases in meeting new clients through the platform, which is why I've gone so heavy into it. It is now at this point, being heavy repeat and referral, it's going to rival repeat and referral this year.
Incredible.
It is. So yeah, I think there's a few tweaks you can do there to just basically let people know that, it's okay to reach out to you. And I think you can increase your business, unless you have too much business already. And then
maybe just out of my average 5,000 views of video, 4,500 of them are realtors.
It's
who are like,
possible.
okay, great. Now I know exactly how to sell the project because Jordon just taught it to me.
Would you ever mix in videos that aren't like, I know you do like market update stuff as well, but maybe some different content that would just be consumer focused where the realtors wouldn't get anything from it? I guess they get something from everything, right?
Yeah, I've always thought I need to kind of expand the content base.
Yep.
Especially, I mean, that's probably, I've decided kind of that this summer is going to be the summer of YouTube for me because I'm hoping for a slow pre-construction market. I might be pleasantly surprised because in the last 2 weeks, things have just kicked up out of nowhere.
Yep.
And I don't get it because like the sentiment should not be improving. Like it shouldn't be, but
Nope.
it seems to be. Affordability is getting worse. Rates continue to rise. Housing prices continue to trade sideways or worse, fall. And yet it seems like there's a lot of people who want to buy pre-construction again.
I can't believe for my own business in the last week, we got 3 buyers done and I've had 7 new buyers reach out wanting to get started. I'm like, all right, I guess this is a summer of buyers because our listings will move, but a lot slower than they used to. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Like we all think we know what's going on. The consumer decides, right?
At the end of the day, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're right, Jordon. I think, you double down this summer on that platform and you're going to take so much market share. It's going to be ridiculous because there's going to be a bunch of people that scale back and don't do a lot of the stuff and they don't provide value. Right. And there's going to be so much opportunity in a down market for somebody like you that believes in education first to just crush everybody else, specifically the guys that are, not willing to get out there and put themselves out there for people to understand their opinions on.
But Steve, my slideshow of 10 photos of the project, my 2-minute video on YouTube should get me leads. I don't want to compete with Jordon. Okay.
Yeah,
I put music behind it and I had pictures that moved. Okay. So that's
okay. Hold on. To be fair, those are SEO videos. Those are not, I don't think anybody's throwing those up. Like I should have sold 10 units from that. I spent 12 minutes.
There's companies that reach out to me every single day. Hey, I'm going to produce a video for you for, $300, $400, and it's going to get you this many listing leads and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, man, what's going to happen is I'm going to inform the public. And I'm going to tell them it's okay to reach out to me if you want to do something in real estate. And they do. Right. So I don't know. I just think so much of our industry has to get away from trying to get clicks or trying to get someone on the phone so you can convince them that you're the guy, as opposed to the approach that I think everybody on this call is taking, which is just give them the information first. And when they like, have you seen the crap I put out, man? The jokes that I tell are for me. They're not for anybody else. And for some reason, people like them, right? You're just getting me. And
I'm worried to know there's other people in the world that are like you.
That are like me, right?
Yeah.
And trust me, I'm worried about that too.
Yeah.
But it is just like, I can't believe that being me more and taking my approach, which is education and transparency and all that stuff, is the thing that's doubling down on my business and making it just crazier and busier than ever before. And I think that's where our industries are. That's where the successful people in our industry are going to go.
Right. I mean, more business would be great from YouTube, but mainly like I need to catch up to head honcho, Mr. Steve Suretsky subscriber count. That's the ultimate.
Hey man, he's been doing it longer and he's great at it, but he's
fantastic.
Don't compare your chapter 4 to his chapter 10,
No, it's not about comparing. I just have a competitive spirit. I'm coming for Steve-O.
I've got a terribly competitive spirit that's about to be crushed because I think Tom's going to pass me this week.
I'm close.
You just got to put up like
clickbait.
Yeah, bear market.
Jordon, Steve had one video that got like 220,000 views and he was way behind my subscribers and just blew by me. Like that one video probably got you 2,500 subscribers. It was crazy, if not more. Yeah.
And it was a video I put out because I didn't have a video that day. And I saw just a BS article that I was like mad at the press for putting out. So I was just like, this is just crap. Don't let them scare you, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, it was like, I don't know. It was like 1,000 views the first day. And then like 3 days in, it was like 120.
It's fascinating, man. It's the strangest thing when the algorithm gods decide to just,
when they bless it.
Yeah. It's sometimes it's the most unsuspecting content. It's the stuff I worked Like some of these videos take me multiple days and they'll sit there at 800 views, way below my channel average, right? For weeks. And other stuff, yeah, it's like half-assed attempt and it just goes.
I actually think the best value or the most thought out stuff is probably the ones that get 400, 500, 600 views.
Right.
And they probably actually get me the business. And then the other stuff is just, you know, get eyeballs on you so people can come back when they're ready. Right.
Right.
Jordan, I got 2 more questions and we'll let you go.
Okay.
The first one is, have you ever had a developer reach out to you and say, hey, I like your stuff online. Can you do a video on our project and we will sponsor you? Is that happening at all?
No.
Okay. Would you be open
he would
to-
like it to?
No.
Okay,
I
take
think
away the
that's a
sponsorship
massive
part.
conflict. The sponsorship part scares the shit out of me.
So take that away. Is there developers or people, you know, they're like, hey, you haven't done a video on our new launch. What's up?
I've definitely had developers that I've never sold for.
Yeah.
See my content, see how big our website is, and reach out and say, hey, like, we know you've never sold for us, but we'd like you to be a platinum with us because we don't, you know, like, and so there's definitely that definitely happens. And I know the underlying thing is like promote our stuff also, please.
Yeah.
Please and thanks. Do that one of those videos that you did. I have had the opposite. I have had a developer say, take that video down right now.
Okay, you just got to my next question before I even asked it. So you've gotten in trouble kind of because of a video before, because you stated your opinion and someone just didn't like your opinion?
Correct. Yeah. And this was very early. It was one of my first project reviews. And all I said was, the project is overpriced. Now, I think I would get away with it now because, hey, man, you can look through his videos. Like he says that about 9 out of 10 projects. And then he rationalizes why. It's this is a construction cost and these are the things. And this is why long-term, whatever, however I sell it. But yeah, they were not impressed. I was blacklisted. And they were like, hey, don't bring your clients. You're not allowed to sell at this site. And I was like, well, you must have missed the video because I don't like the project. I was never going to. So, it is what it is.
Yeah. I've told you about my one experience as well. I had a 3 worst condos in Toronto video that really took off and I got a real nasty letter. And I even wrote back to them. I said like, and I'll be fair, Steve, before you make your snarky comment, to be fair, they sent me a list of things they were doing to improve the building after they basically said they were going to sue me. And it seems like they're slowly getting better, but I'd still never recommend anybody to buy there. But even for me, like what made me laugh was thinking like they had their condo board meeting. This was during COVID. There's no way they're in person. They're on a Zoom call. They're like, have you seen this guy's video? Like he said, we were the worst condo. Like, let's send him a nasty, like to think that the content that we make that started with 0 views, 0 subscribers gets big enough in some capacity for someone in a room to be like, uh-oh, we got to take down this person is kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
Someone shows you it works.
Yeah. Someone in a boardroom going, this guy's a problem. This guy on YouTube is killing us here.
I told Tom not to take that down. And I told him to make a video called I'm Getting Sued for Telling the Truth About Toronto Real Estate. Didn't do it.
No, so, my title was going to be I'm Getting Sued by the Worst Condo in Toronto.
That would have been bad. That would have been bad.
Yeah, I didn't want to start any wars, so I just moved forward with that. But Steve,
it's strange on the sponsorship side of things because I think it would be nice to be able to get in, but like I've had some companies reach out about sponsorship just for regular videos like product placement, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I'm totally on board with that. I don't mind making money. If you got a good product, I'll promote it. The reason it hasn't gone ahead yet is, well, we have to okay your scripts. And I'm like, oh, no, you guys don't understand how this, you don't understand how this works. I'm probably now going to make a video about your product and not get paid on it and give you a good, honest opinion. Now, I think the product, the one I'm thinking about in particular was good. I think it's good. But the fact that they wanted to tell me what to say, I was out.
Also, what script? I just turn on the camera and talk.
Well, that's the other thing. I'm like, I produce a video, I put it out tomorrow. Yeah. And they're like, well, we have to vet it through legal and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what, guys? I don't think you understand YouTube.
I just got a pretty cool one that I might actually do that came from the Instagram side. It's actually an alcohol company. I'll share with you guys offline and because I think you guys would be good for it too. And they're basically just giving you free stuff. They're like, just give it to your clients from you. It's summer. And I'm like, this actually looks pretty good. Like send me the info.
I'll give it all to my clients.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Jordon, I appreciate you staying on with us today. Any final thoughts on where do you think the market goes to the end of this year?
Oh, to the end of this year, it's so hard, man.
Yeah, I know.
Not up.
Yeah.
So there's that.
When do you think it stops falling?
I think it's going to be sooner than a lot of people expect. I guess the problem is like I live in this bubble where I live on Twitter and I live with colleagues, top producing agents, and not literally live with them, but you know what I mean? Like that's who I'm around all day. And so we live in this knowledge bubble where I think that that's the average person's sentiment. I don't actually have any idea what the average person thinks of real estate right now. Like, I really don't. I saw the sentiment chart from Bloomberg about the US sentiment showing that, you know, something like 60% of people think it's a bad time to buy. It's the worst it's been since 2008, whatever. But I don't know what the average person thinks. I know that I believe, like, even with the CPI print we saw the other day, yesterday, I still think the idea of like 6-7 more 50-point rate hikes is insanity.
It's got to be insanity, right? They can't.
There's 6 coming, man.
Everything blows up. Everything.
It's going to be bad.
You guys can come visit me. I'll be eating beans under the gardener in my tent because none of us have jobs left. Okay.
You know what? I think that where the market is headed with all of that is like, I'm talking to a lot of people that are more okay with this market because of not the craziness. So that's why I think you're seeing so many listings come on, particularly in our market. Now, does anybody want to rush out and, you know, offer 200 grand over ask? Of course not. But people are more okay with it when you're talking to them. Are they going to wait and see for some period of time or whatever? Sure. But I think there are more people that would prefer to participate in this. And I think we are, as you're saying, Jordon, in a bit of a bubble where a lot of the comments and stuff we get are people that follow real estate day to day. And the majority of people don't. They just buy that one pre-condo every single year. And next year I'm going to buy another one. I don't care what the market's doing. Right. So I think we are in that kind of echo chamber of, oh no, it's terrible. Oh no, it's that. Most people still bought their properties 5 years ago and they're still double value, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. It's really just the people who bought December through February.
Yep.
Who are underwater pretty much so far, anyways.
And they're not selling this week.
Small percentage of the overall population. It's very, very, very small. The people.
Yeah.
What
was that article? 1 in 4 homeowners can't afford.
We talked about that last week.
Don't get me started on that one, man.
It didn't
what?
quantify like anything. It didn't quantify the rate amount. It didn't quantify like,
I know,
based on what.
Yeah. So that's actually the video, a very similar topic to the video that I had that took off, which is I just used their clickbait title from an article like that. And it was like 35% of Canadians are going to go bankrupt if interest rates increase.
Right. Okay.
And it's like, and then it's like, also 54% of people don't know what bankruptcy means. Like, okay, so it's like, I don't know, man. Like, what are you really doing here, right?
Yeah.
So
Jordon, other than people finding you under the gardener eating beans in a year and a half, if they want to find you, bring rice. If they want to find you online, where are they finding you?
YouTube, preferably. Come watch me on YouTube. Come hang out on YouTube. I might even start doing YouTube lives. I don't know. I've got the whole summer ahead of me. You know,
link down below to Jordon's YouTube pre-condo if I remember to do it by editing this all in and getting it there. I got to run, guys. I hear my team yapping in the other room. I hope that's not coming through my mic. So morning is starting here.
All right, Jordon, thank you so much for coming on. Steve, unfortunately, I'll see you in another week. And everybody have a great weekend.
What a guy. Are you going to say your sign off in front of another person?
Yeah. Ready? Bye.
You man.